This is the Flow Flex Scale Podcast, your field guide to the Solopreneur operating system with author and coach, Jennifer Britton. Daily steps plus consistent action equals momentum. That's Jennifer's mantra, and it starts right here, right now, with you. This is the Flow Flex Scale Podcast. Let's get started.
This episode picks up right where Jennifer and Valerie left off in episode 2, exploring the topic of rebuilding your identity as a solopreneur. If you haven't listened to that yet, I encourage you to go back and listen to that one and then return back here, because this time they're taking a deeper dive into the being of a solopreneur in business. There's lots of great information in this conversation, so be sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. Okay, here we go. Let's listen in.
I love that you've pointed us to community, team, and relationships. Being a solopreneur does not mean we are an island. You know, I've said that a lot in the days of remote work, but even more so, I think as solopreneurs need to be great in relationships and being able to connect in, because we can't do it all by ourselves. And you really shared that. But I want to zoom into this last piece that you just talked about. Say a little bit more about not just relationships, but also the other part that you just mentioned.
Which part was that?
So you were just talking about how you're the being of the solopreneur. Because I think, again, our presence, embodying our being. Say a little bit about what you've noticed, again, in your last year of journey, how your identity is maybe changing, or key moments, or just any reflections on that. Because to the DNA of us, right? It's not only connecting with that, maybe even reconnecting with it, because sometimes we're in jobs which don't really honor who we are, and we've learned to be that way. In a solopreneurial business, so sometimes we can really reclaim ourselves. So reflections on you, your DNA, and your being of your identity.
I love that. So just a short conversation about my journey. So I was in the federal financial management career field for 30 years, and I was introduced to coaching around my 20th year. And up until that point, I had just felt, as you know, I'm a conversationalist, and I always was, people were coming to me for professional help, and I was mentoring people, but I really didn't feel like I had the right skills to really help people move forward. And I was introduced to coaching and as an internal coach, and I became an internal coach, and it helped me in my role as a leader, but it really helped me to have that language and the skill set to actually help people and see people move forward. Mm-hmm. And so carrying that into this part of my work and in this part of my life, my identity for 30 years was, Valerie's an analytical person, and she's the technical person. And, she's a great person if you need support, but she's got this analytical side. And I really didn't get to explore the creative side of myself. And so moving into solopreneur and having to kind of go back to the beginning, and it's like, who was I before I became a financial budget accounting technical person? And I was a lot of things. I was a writer, I was a dancer, I was a speaker, I was an instructor, and I did all these things. And so kind of not skipping the 30 years, but just trying to pull out of it what I still want to continue, as well as reclaim that earlier part. And so it's a journey. And I thought that, I was a coach, at my work, I could still coach, but it's more than that. It is really, reconnecting and drawing into that strength of the creative part, plus the technical part, which I need to be a business owner, but yes, just reclaiming that portion of myself.
Brilliant. Well, I think our listeners are really going to enjoy that piece, because I think we all, throughout our entrepreneurial journey, have moments of claiming, reclaiming, shedding. That is the beauty, because we keep growing as well in our business, and our business may grow in different ways that we're not even seeing from the onset as well. So thanks for sharing that. I think people will really love hearing that whole piece around how you really are reclaiming the creativity, which, interestingly enough, is one of our activators in the Flow Flex scale, right? Talk a little bit about what you're noticing about creativity as a solopreneur? Where is that showing up in your work and your business right now?
Oh my goodness. So two places. So first, what I really dug into at first was designing my Coaching for Chronic Illness Essentials program. And there obviously is the heavy technical piece of the coaching skills and how to coach someone that has chronic illness. But it was designing the curriculum was so much fun, not taking something that someone else had done, not leveraging something that someone else had done, but designing it from scratch. The slides, the content, the narrative, and the program itself and how to connect with others and all of those things. And I drew very heavily on a lot of things that I learned from you and the courses I've taken from you and the business side that you emphasize so much. And so that was wonderful. But one of my career goals that I had early on in my 20s was to be a novelist, a fiction novelist. And so I had dabbled in that, but it's always been on the back burner. And so being able to add that to my repertoire and spend time and actually write and see my ideas come to fruition has been so much fun. And we did the sprint in, I believe it was November of last year.
In November,
And
what used to be the former National Novel Writing Month, for sure. And you were just putting numbers and words down on the page, which was exciting.
I finished that book.
You finished that book. I love hearing that. And love hearing that. So maybe, this, for those that know me, right, as a writer, this podcast, I think, spotlights the fact that we can have many identities too as a solopreneur. And you are like me in that, very much the writer, but also the program designer, the coach. And so talk a little bit about what you notice about your rhythm of managing all those things, because it's a lot of work to put out a book, let alone having all these other things going on. So talk a little bit about the rhythm of your work.
Oh my goodness. So rhythm is so important in life as a solopreneur, as managing your health and avoiding burnout. And I think that it goes back to, I don't know if we've talked about systems.
No, not yet.
Having systems has been so important. And systems and so systems don't have to be rigid and they need to be flexible because things change. But I noticed at the beginning, I was just all over the place. My desk was a mess. I couldn't find anything. Some days I was writing, some days I was doing the program, and I wasn't making progress on anything. And so one of the things that I learned early on, again, from other different types of training, is that you can have 5 things, but if you don't have anything done, you don't have anything that you can move forward. And so I've had to, last year, I had to focus in on my training program for at least 3 months. And I had to prioritize that because I was not going to get that done by doing everything else that I was doing. And so what I'm trying to do this year is I do want to publish a book. And so I'm building writing into my daily life, but I also have designed a framework. So I have milestones. And so I'm a project type person at heart. And so having milestones on what I want to accomplish in that space every week, every month, every quarter also keeps me on track. And then it helps that I have systems for the other things. So I have systems for my admin. I have systems for how I track my financials. I have systems for my marketing. So when am I going to record my videos? When do I write my scripts? I have systems for how I do my newsletter. And so some of the basic things that I have to do, I've developed systems for. So then I can focus on these things that are unique and have a limited scope of some sort.
Yeah. Well, thank you for drawing back the curtain on that, because systems are so critical, right? As I wrote, I think it was Coaching Business Builder, I went into the 5 systems every business owner needs, and that shows up in FlowFlex Scale as well. What I also want to spotlight for listeners is it is the systems that give us the time back to focus on these really important projects that take deep focus, what Cal Newport would say, the deep work, because we can just have a business that continues flatlining. But if we really want to have incremental growth, we've got to find time and energy, more importantly, for the strategic, fun projects that we know are the ones that are going to move the business forward. Because I really hear you get a lot of passion and excitement out of your writing, but also out of the program creation. And there are different skill sets, definitely different skill sets, different energies, then also running it. And so really kudos to you. I also hear how quickly you've been able to probably take your years and years of experience in running teams, running programming to really now make it your own in a very unified way. And wondering if you have any tips, because I think people get lost in the having multiple projects on the go. It's inevitable as a solopreneur. We are sometimes, my father would say, what, cook and bottle washer at the same time?
All of it.
Everything. So any tips or suggestions on, like, you talked a little bit about your scheduling, but any other tips on how to keep multiple things on the go?
So one of the things I don't want to miss, and when you were talking, it reminded me, was I had a coach for a short period of time as I was retiring, specifically to help me make that transition. And so one of the things that she helped me think through, because I just wanted to say,
Close the door.
forget everything that I had done for 30 years and just move on to the new stuff. And she reminded me that you develop so many skills, even if it's something you didn't enjoy doing or didn't want to do, you develop so many skills that you can leverage and that can carry you through. So I did a few, 2 or 3 sessions with her, and we just kind of laid things out so that I could see it objectively and see what I wanted to, and I got to pick, what do you want to continue doing and what do you want to let go of? And so I don't want to miss that part, because we are coaches, and having coaching at key points in your life is really important. And so that really helped. I also think you led us through a SWOT analysis. And again, I've done SWOT analyses before, but not for myself. And really sitting down and thinking over quickly, but then over a period of time, what are my strengths and challenges? And what are my business threats and opportunities that are, external to me? And how can I leverage my strengths, and so that I can take advantage of these opportunities? And where can I get support for some of my weaknesses? And, how do I kind of mitigate the threats? And so I go back, I went back to that earlier this week. I went back and dug through my notebook to look at my SWOT analysis, because I wanted to look at those opportunity areas. And so that's another very practical, helpful tool, I think, for solopreneurs.
Love it. And thank you. You're reminding me, right? We're getting towards the end of Q2 2026. It is time to pick up the SWOT and take a look at it. I also was really hearing, and maybe because it's our focus here is the 90-day window, right? You were talking about the weekly, the monthly, the quarterly. And in today's business world, beyond that, how much can we really focus other than maybe our once a year planning? So let's jump gears a little bit. I'm curious, you're such a creative, you're a solopreneur. One of the biggest issues on the table in 2026 is how much AI are you using in your business? I'd love, and I'm sure listeners are intrigued to hear, I think it's very common. Solopreneurism is actually the fastest growing entrepreneurial sector right now, in part because a lot of businesses are setting up as solopreneurial AI first. So, really doubling down, tripling down, making the agents, an agentic team, the team. I'm hearing for, like me, very much it's a human team, but AI enabled. Talk a little bit about how you're using AI in your business to really help you. I don't know, to help you. I'll leave it at that, ... Over to you.
Sure. So AI it's very interesting. I don't think I used AI hardly at all before I became a solopreneur at all. Like I was just not aware of what was out there. And as I became a solopreneur, I started looking into it, because I'm doing everything by myself. I'm literally doing, everything beginning to end and everything in between, business creation by myself. And I looked into AI as a tool. And I know that it can be concerning. And I am, as a writer, for example, I am very much about the human writing. I write my own work. I design my own training programs. But I use it as a tool to help me brainstorm. I use it as a tool, just like I would go and do a search online and ask questions. I use it as a tool to help me with research. I use it as a tool to make sure that I have the right framework for my terms and conditions and my privacy policy. Like I use it in that standpoint as well. But one of the tools that I use is in designing presentations, because graphics, as we know, can be to get graphics that are what you want is always challenging. Designing graphics myself is a non-starter. And to me, AI has just taken such leaps and bounds on helping us design the graphics that actually communicate what we want to communicate about our business in a great way. And so I really see it as a very important tool and like I mentioned, as a solopreneur with marketing and things like that, I write my own newsletters, but it helps me put it in a way that connects with people and those types of things. And so I do use it as a very important tool for my business as a solopreneur for sure.
Love hearing it. And I was just sort of sharing with Valerie. So before people come and join us here, I send out a field note guide. And really it is something I've learned as a podcaster. Some of you may have heard me years ago at the Remote Pathways podcast. More recently, we've had the Coaching Many podcast. But for this one, I wanted to send a one-pager. And it could have been like very tense text. But of course, I went to my chat that knows my preferences, that has been really aware of the FlowFlex scale. And you're going to see when the cover comes out and the book comes out, a good alignment with what we're evolving very quickly as a brand. I think about how fast in the last year, because FlowFlex scale has grown out of years and years and years of coaching, programming, but from a branding standpoint, the brand has really come together so fast in the last 6 months, AI enabled as well. And so it's interesting how application can really be different, even as a high creative like you are, how do we amp up things to an even higher level? So we'd be interested in hearing from our listeners, what are you doing as a solopreneur? How are you leveraging it? And is this like a new part of the journey? So I'm going to go to my question list to see what else, because we're coming into our last sort of 5 minutes. What do you think is creating momentum for you right now?
I thought about that question as well. I think momentum for me is being created with clarity. Mm-hmm. And the more that I keep circling around, who is my ideal client? Who am I trying to reach? Who am I? What are my strengths? Like just being clear about all of those things. And the other thing is consistency. And there's a lady that I follow and I read a lot of her work. And she talked about people see these big breakthrough moments. And they see you publish the book or they see your training program and they're just like, wow, how did you do that? What they don't see is just the every single day showing up, doing the work, prioritizing, doing your schedule, setting the goals, meeting with people. And then the end result is the result of a lot of work. And so I would say momentum for me is just consistency, is doing the small things every day. And then all of a sudden it looks like you have this big thing that happens. But it's the result of all the small things that people don't see.
It's the daily steps and consistent action that create the momentum. I love hearing you say that in a very different way. And so for you, Valerie, I appreciate all the time that you've taken with us today. We've covered everything from AI to being. I really want to spotlight that to, some of the key points on this last year of your journey. Any other tips or suggestions you want to leave our listeners with before we wrap up today?
One thing I would say is that there is this pull for everybody to kind of do the same thing. Every season, there's something new. And it can be enticing because the landscape is changing so fast. Mm-hmm. And I would just encourage people to just really make sure and stay grounded in alignment with their values and their strengths and what they want and what they believe, because that's what the people that are going to really connect with you and carry your work forward, that's what they're looking for, is the human connection and the authenticity. And so I just encourage folks to, don't feel like, stretch yourself, but don't feel like you have to do all of the things. Just really stay grounded and stay focused, and it will work out.
Yeah. And you've really illustrated that and shared that message with us today in terms of the different stages, the different things you've done throughout your journey over this maybe last year and a half, having a coach that could help you really discern what are you good at, what do you want to carry forward into this new chapter. You talked a lot about conversation. We didn't get into that whole theme, which is one of the 9 catalysts, but, I imagine all the time you're talking to people, your people, right? Like listening for what they need. And we can never go wrong if we're listening in response to what people need now. So Thank you so much, Valerie. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Where can people find you?
So you can find me at my website at coachingforchronicillness.com. That has links to my work, my training program, my videos. So that's probably the best way for folks to reach me. I also do have on there a link to my newsletter. So if you see a pop-up, please sign up, and then you can stay in the loop on all new things that are coming out. And there's a lot new coming out.
Very exciting. So I hope you'll check out Valerie. Again, coachingforchronicillness.com. I got that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Excellent. Until next time, everyone, we'd love to hear from you. What did you enjoy out of today's episode? What can you put into practice? And we'll see you again soon at FlowFlex Skill, the Field Guide. Thanks again, Valerie.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.